Albert Einstein's incredible legacy, which includes over 300 scientific papers, continues to influence the world more than a half-century since his death. And while Einstein redefined our understanding of the universe, perhaps his greatest contribution to mankind is still to come: time travel.
It's Einstein's special theory of relativity, speed of light, and the general theory of relativity, which allows for the real possibility of time travel.
Some scientists today believe that Einstein's theory of relativity creates the possibility to travel through a portal or wormhole called an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a space anomaly that may actually be a gateway to parallel universes.
In the theory of general relativity, space actually acts like something that you can bend and warp and make holes in. So an Einstein-Rosen bridge is a particular example of a wormhole. And a wormhole is a structure in space and time that involves kind of tearing a hole in space, stretching the material, if you think of space being a material, and reconnecting it somewhere else.
An Einstein-Rosen bridge takes 2 points in space and connects them so that if you travel in one end, you come out the other. Even though those 2 points appear in different universes, it's essentially a teleporter, something that allows you to get between two distant places instantaneously.
Could Einstein's theoretical wormhole actually serve as a portal to another universe? Perhaps opening a gateway that will one day establish contact between humans and extraterrestrials.
When we take a look at the idea that there are wormholes and that these are actually generally accepted by some of the most brilliant individuals on the planet, what you begin to see is that all of these pieces are in place to suggest that there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, and that there is also the likelihood or possibility that we have had contact in the past, or have ongoing contact now, or may have contact in the future as well.
Was Albert Einstein's monumental work actually a lifelong quest to establish contact with extraterrestrials? Did otherworldly beings provide him with information about how to transcend both space and time? If so, why?
We find that the greatest discoveries across time and space don't come through hard work or intensive labor, but that really the genius somehow is able to access a realm, and that realm is able to pretty much download that information to them and makes them remember forever onwards as geniuses.
In history, you have certain people whose genius is just so incredible. It's like they're able to see the future, and they're not going to just influence the world then and in the future, but what they're going to do is going to dramatically change the world forever.
We tend to think of civilization as this slow ebb of information, that somehow across the flow of time we have progressed. But really this is not the case. We have made giant strides forwards because at pockets in time there were certain geniuses living.
Are extraterrestrials accelerating the cognitive abilities of a select few to help further the development of human civilization, as some ancient astronaut theorists believe? Could this explain Albert Einstein's extraordinary neural anatomy?
Is it only a coincidence that arguably the greatest mind in the history of the world had a higher concentration of glial cells and a wider parietal lobe than the average human brain, and was as healthy as the brain of a young man when he died? That is extraordinary evidence.
If we were able to study the brains of some of these other geniuses, Isaac Newton, of Nikola Tesla, and perhaps now of someone like Stephen Hawking, I think we would find that their brains too are significantly different than a normal human's.
there seems to be something within our DNA whereby we go in one direction and we seem to have a normal human being, but also certain things within our DNA are able to make us a genius. And definitely Einstein was one of them. But what makes this switch work is something which we have been completely incapable of answering.
The Mahabharata. In this sacred Indian text, written in the 8th century BC, King Ravita is described as traveling to the heavens to meet with the creator god Brahma, only to return to Earth hundreds of years in the future. Some researchers believe this Hindu tale may be one of the oldest records of successful time travel in the ancient past.
There's the story of a king called Ravayata, and he is taken into space to see the gods. And when he returns to the Earth, he finds that many ages have gone by, and it's been hundreds of years. And this is the kind of thing that would happen to space travelers and in time travel as well. You think you're gone for only a few days, but when you return to Earth, you find out that you've been gone for hundreds of years.
Like the legend of Chaco Canyon, similar tales of time travel can be found all around the ancient world. In Japan, the legend of Urashima Taro details a fisherman's visit to the protector god of the sea, Ryujin, in an underwater palace for what seemed like only 3 days.
When he returns to his fishing village, he finds that it's been 300 years that he's been gone. And his house is in ruins. Everybody he knows is long dead. No one remembers him or his family.
And in the Hebrew Bible, descriptions of the prophet Jeremiah in Jerusalem are eerily similar to both of these accounts of time travel.
Even in the Bible, the prophet Jeremiah was sitting together with a few of his friends, and there was a young boy, his name was Abimelech. And Jeremiah said to Abimelech, "Go out of Jerusalem, there is a hill, and collect some figs for us." The boy went out and collected the fresh figs. Of a sudden, Abimelech hears some noise and wind in the air, and he became unconscious. He had a blackout. After a time, he wakes up again, and he saw it was nearly the evening. So he runs back to the society, and the city was full of strange soldiers. And he said, "What's going on here? What is Jeremiah and all the others?" And an old man said, "That was 62 years ago." It's a time travel story written in the Bible.
Southern Egypt, Agilkia Island. Here, just 6 miles upstream from Aswan, in the Nile River Valley, lies the Temple of Isis. Built in the 4th century BC, the temple was a center of worship for the Egyptian goddess of fertility and nature until the 6th century AD.
Isis became the most important deity which ancient Egypt ever had. She was married to her brother, Osiris, and together they really became the popular husband and wife to which everybody wanted to be like. She is seen as a symbol of life, whereas Osiris is seen as the deity who rules over the dead. And so, whether you are alive or whether you're dead, you can always identify with Isis and Osiris.
According to ancient Egyptian religious belief, the goddess Isis was known as the Divine Mother and believed to be the soul of the brightest star in the sky, Sirius.
To the ancient Egyptians, Osiris was Orion. That constellation actually was a literal living embodiment of the great god Osiris. Sirius was the representation of his wife, sister, and consort Isis. Together, those two essentially ruled the skies and the life of the Egyptian people themselves.
Many ancient cultures, including the Egyptians, Chinese, the Greeks, the Japanese, all had beliefs and legends that our gods who created us have come from Sirius. And this star, extremely important star to almost all ancient cultures.
This knowledge originally emerged in ancient Egypt and in Africa with the Dogon tribe, who taught that beings of light came from Sirius and created humankind.
It is clear that so many cultures possessed information about Sirius, and they single out Sirius apart from everything else. And it's got nothing to do with its brightness, it has to do with the fact that somehow Sirius is responsible for sending us emissaries who educate us.
The Singapore Air Show, February 2014. An Israeli arms company known as Rafael Advanced Defense Systems reveals details of a laser defense system capable of shooting missiles from the sky with a pulse of energy. The futuristic military hardware is called Iron Beam.
The concept of Iron Beam is that it's essentially a high-energy laser that is designed to rapidly heat up the target that it's aimed at. We're talking about aircraft, drones, missiles. Anything that could launch an attack on a city could be literally destroyed in the sky by Iron Beam. This sounds very much like Tesla's death ray.
This is exactly the kind of technology that Tesla was talking about in the 1920s and 30s, of using these beam weapons to shoot down missiles and projectiles.
The War Department sided with Einstein and Oppenheimer's atomic bomb, not with Tesla. But now what we're seeing is that Israel is developing this iron beam technology because they realized that atomic weapons were far too destructive. Is it possible that Tesla developed a time viewing or time travel technology, and that he became aware of these developments?
Tesla was once quoted as saying, "The present is theirs, but the future for which I have really worked is mine." Did Tesla, in fact, see into the future? Might Iron Beam be proof that plans for the death ray not only existed, but also may have even been confiscated and carried out by the United States government? There are those who believe that Nikola Tesla was not only in contact with extraterrestrials, but was sent here to Earth by them to fulfill a mission and usher in a new age for mankind.
One of the big questions is, who is Tesla? Is he, in a sense, an avatar, an enlightened being that comes to the Earth to help humans? No one really knows exactly what's going on, but I think all great artists, and Tesla saw himself as an artist, feel that they're instruments of a higher purpose, and Tesla certainly felt that he was working along those lines.
There is an agenda for humanity. There is a plan. And in every generation, whatever power it is that's behind the plan sends to Earth certain specific souls who are by birth more inclined and able to be receptors to the higher knowledge.
Storrs, Connecticut, January 2012. In a lab at the University of Connecticut, theoretical physicist Ronald Mallett demonstrates his large-scale model of a time machine. Using a device called a ring laser that produces a circulating beam of light, the professor hopes to prove that the twisting light actually bends space, forming a loop in time.
Now what's happening here is that these lasers, even though you can't see it, they're actually creating a circulating pattern of light. And that circulating pattern of light is actually twisting the empty space in here. The twisting of space will eventually lead to a twisting of time. In Einstein's theory, the two are connected. And that twisting of time will be where time travel is occurring, because if you think of time as being a straight line, then if we twist space, then what will happen eventually is that the space will twist time into a loop. So breakthrough my work was to use light to manipulate time, and that should allow for the possibility of going back in time using light.
Although this is only a prototype, Mallett believes he may be able to create a working time machine in as little as 10 years. He believes the energy of the light beams will produce a gravitational field strong enough to drag a spinning neutron through time.
Let's say I'll call the spin up a 1, and I'll call spin down a 0. So imagine I send a stream of neutrons with spin up, spin up, spin down, spin up. What do you call that? That's binary code. So by using the spin of neutrons, I could send a binary code, which could be translated into a message.
But could this technology ultimately be able to send larger objects through time, like a person or a spacecraft?
Einstein's theory of relativity allowed for something called the Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is what we today call a wormhole. It opened up the possibility that we can travel from point A on Earth to point B somewhere else in the universe, as if there were nothing in between.
If the possibility exists to travel instantly from one end of the universe to another through wormholes, might there be evidence that such technology was used in the ancient past?
The ancient Egyptians knew about Stargate and wormhole travel. The evidence that I discovered is at the Temple of Hathor at Dendera. When you enter into this temple, you look up on the ceiling, which is called the astronomical ceiling, and you see the gods as ascended light beings traveling on their ships of eternity. And it suggests to me that the ancients didn't use the term wormhole for these time travel portals, but we're clearly talking about the same thing.